Spain, France, and Italy have begun imposing concrete restrictions on the use of bases, airspace, and logistics routes, creating a practical blockade on United States operations against Iran from within NATO itself. About a month after the start of US-led operations against Iran, an unusual shift began to take shape across Europe. Countries traditionally aligned with Washington started placing direct limitations on the use of their territories for military logistical support. Spain began reviewing access to strategic bases such as Rota, while also increasing control over its airspace traffic. France adopted more restrictive measures on the transit of aircraft carrying military equipment toward the Middle East. Italy, in turn, introduced additional requirements for landings and operations at key Mediterranean installations, including bases historically used to support U.S. missions. According to analyses published by outlets such as the Financial Times and The Guardian, these decisions are not symbolic. They directly impact American operational logistics. The key point is this: these restrictions are not coming from adversaries, but from active NATO members. An alliance originally created to ensure military cooperation among its partners. Consider following our page to stay informed about military developments in the United States and around the world. To understand this scenario, it's important to look at how NATO operates beyond its institutional narrative. Although it brings together more than 30 countries, the alliance does not function as a single, centralized military force. In practice, this means that any operation conducted by the United States using European infrastructure depends on direct political approval from each government involved. NATO's military structure is organized into integrated commands, such as Allied Command Operations, responsible for executing missions, and Allied Command Transformation, focused on modernization and force adaptation. Even so, these structures coordinate operations, but do not replace national decision-making. Another critical factor is the use of shared bases, facilities operated jointly by national forces and U.S. troops, which increases local control over any military activity. In addition, formal protocols require advanced planning, political approval, and coordination across multiple levels of command. This model ensures interoperability, but also creates immediate limitations when there is no consensus among member states. With the start of operations against Iran, the United States began heavily relying on European bases as logistical hubs for aerial refueling, weapons transport, troop rotations, and equipment movement. However, as the operation progressed, some European governments started reassessing their level of indirect involvement. Spain gradually expanded its operational restrictions. France began limiting overflight authorizations for specific military aircraft. Italy reinforced formal requirements, making the process more bureaucratic and selective. These decisions are driven by three main factors. The first is legal. Without a clear resolution from international bodies such as the United Nations Security Council, some countries argue there is not sufficient legal basis to directly support the operations. The second factor is strategic. There are concerns about potential retaliation reaching European territory, especially considering the range of ballistic missiles and drones associated with Iranian-linked forces. The third factor is political. European governments are facing internal pressure to avoid involvement in external conflicts, particularly after recent experiences in the Middle East. From an institutional standpoint, NATO's core principle, collective defense, is only activated in the event of a direct attack on one of its members, under Article 5 of the treaty. Since that is not the case here, there is no formal obligation for support. In addition, the treaty establishes geographic limits, restricting the automatic application of the alliance outside the Euro-Atlantic area. What we are seeing, therefore, is not an immediate collapse of NATO, but rather a moment of internal adjustment. Historically, the alliance has faced disagreements before, but the current situation introduces a broader element: the growing debate over European strategic autonomy. In the short term, the trend points toward a revision of logistical agreements, greater national control over military bases, and a reduction in operational dependence on the United States, a shift that directly impacts global power projection and agreements between the United States and the European Union. And if you like the video, don't forget to leave your like right here. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new content.